Alrighty, so hello and welcome to anyone who might be watching this video. My name is Austin, my gamer tag is Rush, and this is going to be a little video about my experience at the Riverbend Battles Rocket League tournament. I believe it was back on October, I might have to get the exact date, but it was the most previous Rocket League tournament, not the one on Friday the 13th, but it had to have been either the end of September or early October. Regardless, I'm here to just talk about my thoughts on the tournament. I did attend. So let's get right into it. A little background about me. I have been gaming competitively since Call of Duty 4 in 2007, going on about 10 years now. As far as my Riverbend Battles history, back in Call of Duty Ghosts, I did attend one of the 2v2 tournaments. I think Jeff Covington was there from UMG. I don't know if you guys are still tied in with UMG, but he was there, and we did place like third at that tournament. Very great tournament, a lot of fun. This was my first time back at Riverbend Battles though, since they did have the new facility in Alton, so I was excited to see that. So I'm just going to talk about my experience there because there was some positives and some negatives. The first thing I want to talk about is the building itself was amazing on the outside. I was so hyped entering the building. I saw like JCap and a couple other pros on the outside of the building, so I was definitely super stoked. So when we first walked in, the first issue I had, first off, let me say we did drive about 45 minutes for this tournament. We are located around Washington University in St. Louis, so we're about 45 minutes away from the Alton venue for Riverbend Battles. So we drove 45 minutes. We were dedicated. We waited 2 weeks for this tournament. We got it all planned out. We were ready to go practice our Rocket League the day of. Got there, super excited. First issue we had when we first walked in to I believe the concession area, we weren't greeted upon entry, and we really didn't know what to do. The first room we entered, we knew that the gaming room was to the left. We entered on the right side door. We got in. There was nobody in the concession area or anything. Nobody greeting among our first entry, mind you. The event page said 6 o'clock was when the tourney would start. We arrived at about 5:45 to 5:50, so about 10 minutes before. I was a little nervous that they might have started without us, but the first room looked like a ghost town, so we didn't really know what to do. We all managed to use the restroom. Probably about 5 to 10 minutes went by, and we were like, okay, well, we probably need to walk into this next room over where the setups are actually located. So we did that, and still upon entering then, I had to find somebody who knew about the Rocket League tournament that was going on. There was a couple players scattered around all the setups playing PC or whatever. None of the consoles seemed to be touched, but there were some people working on the PCs in the back. We didn't know where to set up or what to do, and mind you, about 10 to 15 minutes before the tournament started is when this was occurring. So I just have some notes here so I don't forget the timeline of exactly what happened. So I found someone who looked like a staff member, but nobody was really wearing anything that could determine whether they were staff or anything. But I did ask someone about the Rocket League tournament, and he replied that the Rocket League person running the tournament was a little bit late. This was, like I said, about 5 to 10 minutes before the event time said it would start on Facebook. So I thought that was pretty strange. But he did tell us to find a place to set up, and we couldn't find 3 setups that were available or ready for us to use. So we just kind of asked, and he was like, oh, we'll use these 3 setups over here on this wall. One of them had like a Dr. Pepper and a couple other things plugged into it, but 2 of them were free. So me and my friend Aaron started setting up, but my brother Taylor, who was with me, couldn't set up because someone else's equipment was there. And it just seemed very odd to me that there wasn't a lot of people there. We also showed up 10 minutes before, and we didn't have any setups ready for us, and we kind of had to ask around of what to do when we're here ready to play the tournament. We didn't know where to set up. We asked, we got set up. Finally, everything was figured out. So we're gonna go ahead and move on here. By the time our setups were prepared, I would say it was probably about 6:15, and they said they would start in like 15 or 20 when the Rocket League guy arrived. He finally did arrive, and that's where we were able to enter the tournament and pay our money. We did that at the bar in the concession area. I believe it was $5 a player and $5 venue fee. This is where we bring up, there was 3 tournaments that, or 3 teams that showed up to the tournament. Each team, I'm assuming, paid $10 a player, $5 venue fee, $5 entry. So the first thing we kind of thought of was if there was 3 teams and we each paid $5 each for the tournament and $5 for the venue fee, we were paying $10 each to potentially, if we won the tournament, make a total of 15. So we were basically putting in $10 to potentially win a profit of $5, which, as you can see, even if we played like a wager match on UMG and wagered $10, we would at least get that $10 in return. So it was kind of weird going in that for 3 teams, I understand the venue fee. The venue has to make money itself, but that was a little weird for me, was paying $10 each a player, potentially make $5 each. So that was a little side thing as well. So when the tournament finally started, we were kind of just setting up, waiting for it to start, and a staff member said, you guys are going to play first, pointing to us, against the team on the opposite wall. I have a Call of Duty LAN tournament background, and usually at those LAN tournaments, I did see the consoles set up in the middle of the room, across from each other, but it kind of had a weird feel playing a team on the other side of the wall. Kind of just didn't really feel like we were in a tournament. It was more like sort of like a LAN party, and we were just kind of playing online games. That was a little weird for me as well. We were told we would play the team on the opposite wall, and that was when the person who presumably was running the Rocket League tournament, I'm not sure, because the person who took our money at the bar and had written down all the team names and the team and stuff like that was gone, it seemed, once the tournament started, and there wasn't a lot of staff members that I could tell. But the guy did tell us we were playing that team, so that was when we were told that the tournament was starting. We were playing the team on the opposite wall, and he just told us, he said, you guys can decide on a map to play, which I thought was a little weird, because as a competitor, I would have liked to had the maps laid out and the rules laid out, but we were just kind of told to agree on rules and agree on a rule set and a map set, which was kind of weird because it didn't really feel like there was a whole lot of structure to the tournament, which was a little offsetting for me. We were just told to kind of like host up and pick a map. So luckily I knew like Rocket League didn't have a LAN feature, so I just hosted an online game and told them, oh, here's the server code, join us. I had to get out of my seat, go talk to the other team about what map we would play, how we were going to get the game started, because the staff member just kind of came up and was like, oh, well, you guys will play them first, decide on a map, and kind of just walked away. There wasn't really a briefing before the tournament started for the 3 teams, and also there wasn't enough setups for all 3 teams to be able to play and practice at once. The team that wasn't playing did have to sit out, which was a little strange for me, because with just 9 competitors in the tournament, I would have liked us all to have a setup to kind of stay on and practice instead of having to get up and such. But we also, it did specify on the Facebook page that it was double elimination. However, we were not told by a staff member that it was double elimination. We played our first 2 games, and those went fine. We played best of 3s because I assumed that's what we were playing. That all went good. We won our first 2 best of 3s, and then we were required to get up from our setups to make room for the other team to be able to play. So that was another thing that I didn't really like, was it did take us a very long time to get us all set up, get all of our applications we needed, because the PC is obviously harder to set up all of your own personal stuff than, say, a console, where you just kind of plug in your controller, launch the game, make an account, and set up your classes for like something like Call of Duty. With Rocket League, we had to load our Steam accounts, get on Discord, get all of our settings, get warmed up to a new setup, and then right when we kind of got warm on our setups, we had to move and make room for the other team. But there were other PCs that were around that weren't really being used, or I don't know who was using them, but I figured that since the tournament was kind of the top priority for the night, I figured we would have been accommodated, especially because we paid $10 each a player for that. So another thing I really want to talk about, and this actually really bothered me because I did notice it during the finals of the tournament when we were playing. So just kind of updating the timeline, we were waiting for the other team to play the 2 other teams to play each other to see who we would play in finals. And when the team we played first round ended up winning, we had to discuss with them, okay, so it would be a best of 5. And mind you, after the games were completed, there wasn't a staff member monitoring the tournament. There wasn't really anyone like watching to see if there was any cheating going on. It was just kind of, we were just playing an online game, doing our own thing, and we just kind of knew that it was the tournament. It was kind of like, you know, but it didn't feel very official. We didn't have a staff member like watching over anything. They were just kind of over in the corner doing their own thing, and then after it seemed like a game would end, they would kind of come over and say, oh, well, who won this game, and then so forth. But I truly do feel like, and I don't want to be rude by any means, but I felt like this was a player run tournament, and there wasn't really any staff that was orchestrating how the tournament was going to be played. As my dogs run up here, But so that was another thing that I did have an issue with. But the big thing was on the Facebook page, it was advertised that we would be playing on Origin PCs, 144 hertz monitors, top of the line hardware for Rocket League, and run the game best as possible. With console tournaments, it's a little different because everyone basically has the same hardware. They have the same console, they have the same monitor, the BenQ monitor. But in this instance, there were a couple 144 hertz monitors and a couple 60 hertz monitors that were kind of scattered across the venue. And the setups we were playing on initially were 144 hertz monitors, but in finals we were transferred over to the other side of the wall on the setup where our opponents had played. And I noticed about halfway through finals that I was playing actually on a different monitor than two of my teammates, and as well as the team across the wall had 144 hertz monitors, but I was plugged into a 60 hertz monitor. And a game like Rocket League, every frame counts in my opinion. And when we had a team across from us, one of them just so happened to be a grand champion, which is the highest possible rank in Rocket League, and my team is all platinum players. If we're going into a game against a grand champion and we have a hardware disadvantage and we are playing for money at a tournament, it's very discouraging and a little puzzling for me. It kind of took me out of it once I realized that I was playing at about half the frames as the team playing across from me. It was very discouraging, and it was very discouraging to be put at a hardware disadvantage at this tournament where we were playing for money in the high stakes finals of the tournament. I realized that we're playing on different hardware and inferior hardware at that than the team that was playing across from us, which was one of the huge things for me that I really was disappointed with. So the biggest thing for me was when we entered the tournament, we were not greeted by any staff members. We kind of had to find out what was going on because we had never been to Riverbend Battles before. We've never been to the venue, never played any. Like I said, the Riverbend Battles tournament that I did attend previously was at, I believe, a different venue in Illinois when Jeff was there, that I remember. So this was the first time we had been since the venue opened, the nice venue that you guys had. So we weren't greeted, and that was a really big thing for me. I didn't really know how to sign up. I had to find someone to sign up, which was an issue for me. We also didn't see a bracket at any point during the tournament. I know there was 3 teams, so it didn't really make sense to create a bracket, but we were just told like, oh, you were playing them, and then it was sort of like loser got up and the winner stayed. So it was a little weird for me. It didn't have a really tournament feel. We never saw a bracket at any point. We just kind of like, oh, well, they lost once and we haven't lost yet, so we'll play them. And once you lose twice, you go home. Which having 3 teams made it very easy to figure out a structure. But like I said, not having any staff members that were kind of orchestrating the structure of the tournament really took me out of the whole experience because I like when I'm a competitor, having everything solved, and the only thing I have to worry about is playing. But it did seem during the tournament I had to worry about hosting, picking a map, agreeing with the other team what the standards of the tournament were. In finals, we dropped our first series in the best of 5, and they actually thought it was over. But that was the first series that we had lost. So like I said, a lot of the teams didn't really know what was going on because there wasn't a staff member explaining, okay, the finals are about to start. Your team has not lost yet, so you need to be beaten 2 best of 5s. They thought they just had to win 1 best of 5, but we had already beaten them previously in the tournament. So we were 1-1 in series count, and they actually thought they won the tournament, and we kind of had to explain to them, no, we haven't been beaten twice. We're still in the tournament. We have to play another best of 5. And at that point, I had to discuss what maps were going to be played. We had to discuss, you know, the second series. So there was a lot of stuff that we were just kind of let down by the staff in general. And when I pay that $5 venue fee, I really want to have the staff be on their game, be playing on the same hardware to make sure we have a very fair experience at the tournament. So I definitely did enjoy my time. There was just a lot of things that were kind of off-putting for me, and me and my squad kind of driving 45 minutes for the tournament. We were pretty discouraged leaving when we knew we were possibly wagering $10 to only make $5 profit each. And then the hardware issue was the huge thing for me, because playing a game at 60 frames per second and playing a game at 144 frames per second, especially in a game like Rocket League where it's those little minor advantages that can mean a whole thing. Like we were able to 2-0 that team in first round that had the grand champion, and then in finals we didn't beat them a single game because, in my opinion, I was thrown off by the fact that I was playing on inferior hardware. I know for a fact because I played on a 60 hertz and I played on 144 hertz. My gameplay is completely different, which is understandable because the hardware is about 2.5 times faster. So I was just kind of let down by a couple of things. But those were things big enough to deter my team from entering the next Rocket League tournament you guys did host. David, if you're watching this, I do appreciate you watching it through, and really I'm just trying to give feedback because I love video games and I love LAN tournaments. So when I do go to something like this, I do pay attention to what goes on because I have been to a Riverbend Battles event in the past, as well as Core Gaming STL was a LAN company that used to host 3 or 4 years ago, and I went to almost every one of those tournaments. So I'm just making sure, going through the paper here, making sure I didn't miss anything. The main stuff I had was there weren't enough setups to accommodate all of us to stay on the same setups and practice while the other teams were playing to stay warm. That was an issue that I had. There seemed to be a lot more PCs than what we needed. We only need 9 setups because there's only 3 teams, and it was really unfortunate for me that they only had 6 setups dedicated for the tournament. That was a thing. The single or double elim not being specified, and also the final series, the miscommunication we had was an issue. Also, the different hardware and just being told to kind of make our own rules, choose our own maps. That was a little weird for me because a team could be very proficient on one map and they could just push to play that. But luckily we ended up agreeing on playing one map the whole tournament, so that wasn't really an issue. But as my friends and I were driving home 45 minutes after the tournament, a lot of this stuff kind of surfaced, and it was very discouraging for me to ever attend again. Although I did love the venue, I loved the atmosphere, there was a lot of cool setups and a lot of good stuff. It just seemed like the staff members didn't really orchestrate the tournament or really kind of care what was going on. So that was the issue for me. Once again, my name is Austin. On Twitter, you can contact me at RushWWII. I also am in contact with Riverbend Battles on Facebook Messenger, so I will send the link to this video over to them. I appreciate you watching everything. If there's any questions you might have, contact me on Facebook or on Twitter, and I'd be happy to make a follow-up video. Just kind of threw my thoughts onto the screen here. A little bit of a longer video, so if you did tune in to the end, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here, and I will see you guys very, very soon. Thank you.